Hello everyone, I'd like to take another recruit to the army of PvZ Madness Masters today. Time is joined by Escape Route. This plant is definitely worthy of a separate video. I'll try to prove it to you in the next 10 minutes and you can tell me if I did or didn't do it. Anyway, let's get to the point and check out this PvZ Madness, this time dedicated exclusively to Escape Route. Let's start right away with the trumps. This plant has a cool feature. The root can become an impassable obstacle for zombies, and even for such powerful ones as Gargantua. It doesn't always work, but still. In general, you need to keep the root in a half position, then as soon as he tries to attack the enemy, we let him go somewhere in the field and he becomes simply unkillable. Root easily survives the most powerful pitch from Gag. He stands there, blinking and sort of enjoying his life. I'd like to point out that his animation isn't even broken. It's really weird stuff. The beginning is done, let's move on. Something similar can be done with Violet, for example. If you use the root to a shrinking plant at a certain moment, it will not move to its place and only its tail is left under the gloom vine. After that, the root loses its attacking ability again, though in this case it doesn't become immortal, the zombie just eats it. However, it leads to the return of Violet, who finished what it started. Well, if we wait until the shrinking plant is completely gone, then we can swap the root with, what do you think? With an empty space, yeah, and after that we have no root and no Violet. Well, at least Violet managed to shrink the zombie, but root was left with only a tail. And it's quite edible and safe for the zombie. We continue our experiments and now it's down to the lost city traps, specifically the fire tile. We planted the batter on it starts to ignite and now we have to try to save the plant. Unfortunately the batter burns, but the root safely returns to its place, but after seeing the horrors with a fellow, root no longer stick out of the ground. Apparently too much stress. He doesn't lose his attacking ability though, he just activates it from his original form. By the way, if you replace Batted with someone stronger, like a walnut under his ult, there's enough time to save him, except that saving him would cost Root his own life. Let us remember him as a hero. As you know, the planks between the ships and the pirate seas are an unsuitable place to plant some plants. It's impossible to plant mines, pig grip or root itself on them, but Escape Route is such an unusual plant that you can hack the game with it. As you can see, by replacing the digging plant with a root in time, you can get a plantation of roots where they can be planted naturally, and then swap them out for anything you want, even grab, even mines, which will be never planted on the boards in their lives. As for the root, it's easy. And the mine will eventually mage and be fully combat ready, but the grab unfortunately will not be able to dive under the boards and therefore will be useless weeds in this case. Of course, this whole theme could be developed even further. It's probably no secret that for some reason Banana doesn't land on the trolleys in the game. Well, Banana doesn't like to sit in that box with the wheels. However, by doing all the same things that we did on the ship, we again get to trade Escape Route for anything, and that anything ends up on the trolley. Banana Launcher is no exception. The ability to attack is retained and the wagon can be moved, everything works as normal. What prevented the developers from initially allowing Banana to be placed on the cart, it's unknown. There is also a third variation of planting a plant with a root where it's not originally planted. We are talking about Seaflora, which is squeamish about lilies. Really, before I get into that, I'm going to have a bit of a blaze on the developers again. Apparently, they recently changed the mechanics of lilies on the sly. I'm serious, the mechanics of lilies, man! First of all, I don't remember plants being thrown off the beach by a digger before if there were only lily caged behind them. So now you can save your defense from the digger if all the water is covered with a carpet of green circles. But it's okay, look at what's going on with the fisherman. Since when did he start pulling lilies? Correct me if it's been done for a long time, I noticed it just recently. What's the point of the lilies now? It makes sense, but it's really stupid. I planned to not on this substrate and the fisherman generally refuses to cast a fishing rod. Developers just ruined two mechanics and the plants has removed the useful side, so still broke the fisherman attacking. Genius. But the most epic happens when you unsuspecting want to protect a land plant and put a lily in the water in front of it, so it wouldn't sink. But no for you, now the lily is moved by the same plant, just like an ordinary land plant. Well, if you are lucky and it doesn't move, the nut will still sink. Okay, a little nervous, now back to the root. After all, the video is about him. In general, because the digger doesn't throw the usual plants on the lily, the same theme as with the wagons is very hard to do, but still not impossible. With a little dexterity we get the root on the lily, and now we can safely put Seaflora there. I don't know why this is necessary in the terms of the game, but am I doing anything for the sake of meaning? No, of course everything is just for fun. The third game cheat in a row, I rub my hands together and move on. Before getting an ingenious way to plant mines on the Boars with fruits, I had made other attempts to do so. Mostly unsuccessful, but look what idea I was given one day. Here accidentally it turned out to be a real explosive conveyor belt. Every ripe root that a fisherman pulls onto the planks is detonated. If you let zombies out in front of the root reach here, you get a real self-contained meat-packing plant. Another example of creating an industrial plant will be using the Mage, but first look at trick. We move the nut while the Mage is casting, then dig up the moved nut and get a ship that has nothing underneath. That is, the plant on the lawn is one, but there are two sheep left. This can easily be confirmed by killing the magician. There really was nothing under the right ship. You can of course not dig up the nut, and then we got two sheep in one cell, which is also quite savage. If the plant gets bugged when you move it and becomes intangible to zombies, then the mage is forced to constantly trigger on it and breed his fully unit on the same spot. Sheep farms are generally one of my favorite varieties of PvZ Madness. There is a lesser quality madness, but still fun. For example, if you move a macadamia nut from a place where it was shrouded in shadow aura to a place where is no aura, then the move will look a little crooked. The nut spikes take too long without the nut, or on the contrary do not have time to realize that they have to disappear. In short, a little retarded stuff. Interestingly, that the Toonangular only lands on tombstones, but when moved by the root it can be placed anywhere. What's the big deal? It's perfectly normal. You can also watch Gargantua fly away from the root. Again, this is the cost of plant slowness. The mangled is no longer on the cage and the repulsion is there. All according to the classics. Tiger grass is also the kind of plant with which PvZ Madness happens if escape route stops by. Now we are looking at a flying tiger who has to fly across the lawn to get back to his hometown. By the way, another bug may happen here. The tiger may fly anywhere off the screen. I wanted to capture this, but after doing a bunch of takes it didn't work, but I filmed something a little more interesting. Notice that there is a big tiger sitting in the bush right now under the wood with a typical glow, but I bothered him with the root so many times that at one point he just packed up and disappeared from the bush. I still 5 minutes didn't notice it and wondered why I cannot catch the timing of the approach zombie. Only after a lot of attempts I opened my blind eyes and realized that there is no tiger. This was confirmed by the fact that if you do not disturb the zombie, he came to the bush and no one attacked him. Apparently I had already tortured the tiger so much with this root that he just took a vacation. I've already tried to stun root with magic replace, and I'm going to try ice stun as well. In this case we see a bunch of bugs at once. First, instead of the plants are two tails of the root. Second, the second block of ice with broken texture, and third, it cannot be melted with a hot potato. However, the Torchwood is not affected by this. He easily defrosts the root, or rather what's left of it. You may ask, but what if you defrost the first block? That's when the plant casting reaches its logical conclusion. Well, at least somewhere something ended well. But I'm not done with ice for today. I'm going to show you another trick, and again I will do it on the example of the walnut. To do this I need to freeze it in this construction with wine, and the main thing is at the moment of replacement of the root. In this case the walnut again disappears somewhere. Now I will not let Troglodyte push the block and then I will defrost it. Fortunately it defrosts very easily with the help of potato, but under the ice Peanut wasn't there. He didn't come back. Well, I can't put anything on the cage where he was. Trick! You can't plant anything, but you can swap an empty spot with root. Abracadabra and Peanut showed up. What do you think? But I also have another variation of this trick. And what if I start swapping places with root one mushroom and give the other one feet at the same time? The answer is it would be a madness. First, now the spores are flying from nothing, and second, the shroom just disappeared, just like walnut in the last trick. And all the related effects are also repeated. You can't plant anything on the cell where the mushroom was, and you can't dig anything out of there either. That is, the plant is kind of there, but kind of not, a kind of Schrodinger's mushroom. And of course you can bring it back again by casting the root with an empty space. I think Escape Route has convinced you by now that it's one of the craziest plants in the game, but see what happens when you add Bramble Bash to it. After catching the surfer at the junction of water and land with the thorns, you have to move him quickly along with the bush with the root, in which case we get an immortal surfer trapped. I don't know why, but he really becomes immortal, although in the original spot he took damage and even lost an arm. I somehow managed to save him and now he's stuck in the box forever. But why forever? We dig out the thorn bush and surfer dives into the sand like in the sea. I think it's beautiful. Well, Bramble Bash and Escape Route is just a perfect duo, as if they were made for each other. If you trap some tough zombie, then by moving Bramble Bash from one edge to the other while also changing the placement lane, the zombie is forced to follow the bush, only for some reason strictly in a straight lane. But my point is that it's not only with Bramble you can make Gak move. For example, if the thorn bush moves the bully horizontally, then Date Fruit does it vertically. You just have to catch the right timing. By the way, Date Fruit can make a real trap for zombies in other lanes. Although I decided to demonstrate this not with Date Fruit but with Torchwood, which has a similar mechanic. Look at the bottom zombie, he's chewing on a walnut, unsuspecting, and we take and slip Torchwood to the Gak, at the same time swapping it with Root Escape. Sneaky but funny. And just when I was setting up the situation, I accidentally got another madness and I decided to end today's video with it. It all looks so beautiful. Again, I set up the Torchwood and it was supposed to detonate the way I just shown you, but it didn't go according to plan. The Gak struck, the stump disappeared, the root returned to its place, and the Torchwood itself was invisible and intangible to Gak and constantly flashed. That looks cool in itself, but I decided to add Bramble Bash as well. The result is a fiery, spiky, deadly structure. The fire does some real damage. It's the perfect picture to complete the video. I hope Root is now officially at the top of the craziest plants and I lived up to your expectations. If so, give me likes, subscribe to the channel and I'll see you very soon. Bye!